Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle. I'm your host, Marianne, and this is going to be a short solo episode, but I had an experience that I thought worth sharing. I'll be honest, it makes me feel a teeny bit cringy to talk about it, but I still think it's worth putting out there. So here goes. So the other night, as I was getting ready for bed, I was in the bathroom, doing all the things, and I stood in front of my vanity with its big mirror. Nothing out of the ordinary. I'm taking my contacts out. I'm brushing my teeth, just doing my nightly routine before bed like I do every night. But this time, as I took out my barrettes and let my hair fall down, for some reason, I glanced up at my reflection. Now, let's be honest. I look in the mirror all the time. I'm sure you do as well. But most of the time, I don't really look. You know what I mean? You sort of see yourself out of the corner of your eye, or you do a quick glance, but you're not really observing all there is to see. But this time, for some reason, when I looked, I really looked. And I realized that nothing negative popped into my head. That might seem crazy to some people. Like, what do you mean? Does something negative always pop in your head? And I would say, yeah, most of the time. But this time, what I found myself noticing was that I kind of liked what I saw. I mean, sure, my makeup was almost off and it was the end of the day, so I looked a little tired, but I liked the way my face looked as my hair fell softly around my face. And I noticed the tiny lines that now meet the corners of my eyes, and they seemed to be smiling back at me instead of taunting me about how old I've gotten. It was all kind of weird, to be honest, but what struck me in the moment was A, didn't mind how I looked. In fact, I kind of liked it. And B, and probably most importantly, I had this sense of feeling like my outside finally matched my inside. I know it sounds kind of weird. Believe me, I know. I had a moment and I recognize it sounds weird, which is why I said this was a little cringy. But hear me out. This look, the soft hair falling gently, the small lines near my eyes, the crooked smile looking back at me, it all felt, I don't know, right? All right, so I told you it was going to be kind of cringy, so I did warn you. And it felt that way in my head, never mind when I say it out loud. But I'm always saying that we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's where the growth and the magic happens. So here I am, putting it on the line, telling you my innermost thoughts, as weird as they might sound, being very uncomfortable. But I really do feel like it's worth sharing. Anyway, let me explain a little more what went through my head. For years, when I chased perfectionism and external validation, I overworked, I was in my head way too much, gave way too much headspace to worrying about the past and the future, and I did all this as a means to try to control every aspect of my life, which of course wasn't possible, but that's a whole nother conversation. What struck me this night, the night I was really looking at myself in a different light, wasn't just about the fact that nothing negative popped into my head or that I kind of liked what I saw. What really jumped out at me, what really surprised me, was noticing that for years, I always did my hair really specifically, and I sprayed it tight. I mean, my hairstyle was always perfectly, I'm using air quotes, in place. And as a side note, my hairdresser listens to the show, so she's probably rolling her eyes at me right now because this is something she's already noticed years ago. But anyway, I digress. Back to the story. Remember the backdrop of many, many, many years of having the same hairstyle, which was very firmly groomed, blow dried out, hairsprayed firmly. Fast forward to a couple years ago, maybe 3, maybe 4, I started wearing a ponytail for the first time. Literally the first time in my life. But I still always had to have every single strand up tight. and sprayed or slicked back. Going to that ponytail, that was actually hard for me. There's a lot of baggage there, right? But now I'm realizing it was most definitely part of the control thing. So fast forward yet again to the last couple of years, and I now mostly leave my hair down. I mean, I can't tell you, I'd probably blow dry it and spray it, 3-4 times a year in the last couple of years. And now I just come out of the shower, I crimp my curls with my hand, and I throw in a couple of barrettes. So it's very free flowing, it's wavy, it's curly, there's very little product in it. It's kind of just doing its own thing. And what I recognized this night when I looked in the mirror was I've let go of the control in my life. Well, for the most part. I mean, let's be honest, we're all a work in progress, right? And somehow my hairstyle followed suit. And I don't know why, but I noticed it that night. So as I look at that soft, non-restricted hair and those soft lines around my eyes, I thought about how much life's changed in the last handful of years, how much I've changed. And while I'm still very much a work in progress, it felt really nice to be comfortable in my own skin, not trying to control or have the weight of the world on my shoulders, and feel some weird sense of self-acceptance. I guess my message to you, and the reason I wanted to share this story, is to encourage you to look in that mirror. I mean, really look in the mirror and take time to notice all that's changed, both internally and externally. You might not be where you thought you would be, and you might not be where you want to be, but celebrate where you are and where you've come from. As always, I want to end this by taking the time to thank you guys for listening, for coming back week after week, for engaging in the Facebook community. I appreciate each and every listen, each share, each comment, everything you guys do to engage. It really means a lot to me. I mean, it's what I set out to do for those that have been around from the beginning. The reason I did this was so we could all have this place and we could talk about the topics that we were spending time on anyway, but we could all do it together and have support from one another. So anyway, that's my cringy story. And my word of advice to you is to take a moment and notice yourself in the mirror and notice the changes and give yourself a pat on the back for the win of how far you've come. Forget about how far you need to go. You've made it through a lot and you've worked on a lot, and give yourself the credit for that. Have a fabulous day, and be sure to let me know what you think about my cringy share. Oh yeah, and also take a look at the Facebook page this week. I'm definitely going to pop some pictures out there that correlate to this story so you can kind of see the progression I was talking about. And if you're not in the Facebook group, go out there and find it. The link is in the show notes for the episode, Message in the Middle. We'd love to have you in there. Thanks a lot. Talk to you guys soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review, as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.